That's the beautiful thing, is we take away different things from it. It's not me telling you what A to Z is. It's me showing you one way you can get to A to Z yourself. The more and more life stacks up, the less and less you get in touch with that
divine spark, like a seed of the universe.
And art reignites the seed of the universe.
Yeah, there's definitely some mystical divine thing that is creation. It's all ties together.
3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to episode 68 of Ruse Radio. We are back at it again with another very special guest. Special guest, could you please introduce yourself?
I'm Caleb Nettles.
Caleb Nettles.
Yeah.
Now, Caleb, you're in some bands.
Yep.
Now, could you tell the people right off rip, what are these bands? Like, they got an eye on you. They just tune into this video. What do you do?
Me? Well, most of my time is spent playing guitar, teaching guitar, playing in ZANG is my cover band. We're playing a lot right now, playing out and about. Bunch of guys, ZANG, it's like a Wayne's World reference. I can explain that later maybe. Teach a bunch of kids every week and adults, like, you know, I do that. Like 30, I think I have 30 right now. I'm trying to cut it back over the summer. Yeah. Bands. You asked about the bands. What are the bands? The other band is Collapse Revive, metalcore, gent, hardcore thing, band, you know. Check it out. It's on Spotify. Collapse
Could you
Revive.
describe gent to somebody who might not know what that is?
Gent to someone who might not know what that is. Well,
I mean, it's kind of like an onomatopoeia.
Onomatopoeia.
That's kind of the idea, right?
yeah. Like gent. It's like syncopated guitar, open note patterns with bass guitar and kick drum and all that hitting together in weird rhythms, but yet groovy.
Would you say it's a form of metal music?
Yes.
Yeah.
Metalcore.
Okay.
Gent metalcore. It's
And
like
that band, say again, I'm sorry.
Meshuggah kind of started it, I think, in the 90s, and then there was like Periphery. I guess like the end of Metallica, that song One at the end. You know, that whole ending. That kind of was starting gent in the beginning.
That
maybe.
strumming pattern.
Well, just, yeah, the kick drum and the like heavy palm muted open note guitars just synchronized together, you know, syncopated rhythms.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Interesting, because it's a very unique sound. And I feel like guitar is an interesting thing. I mean, music in general, you can explore and you can find new things with your voice, with any instrument. And guitar, it's crazy, some of the things you see people do with guitars. I had no idea gent went that far back. I thought it was recently discovered in like 2015, that whole sound.
Yeah.
But I guess a lot of that stuff is just building upon previous discoveries. Like, oh, you can make this sound like this. But you're right, it's the kick with the guitar too. So it's like the way that you can incorporate those different elements together too. Like, because after Metallica did it, there's not a whole lot of significant examples. I don't think, right? It's not like gents sticking around a whole lot.
Yeah, it was. I feel like Pantera kind of had some influence with like that really locked in groovy riff syncopation. I don't know, but and like down tuning guitars. But yeah, gent I don't think was coined as a term till like maybe 2015.
Yeah,
something like that. I think when Periphery started coming around, people coined that term or something. I don't know where it came from. Periphery's newest record is called Gent Is Not a Genre, because they get teased about it so much, I guess.
And when you're making a song with Collapse Revive, a gent song, how does this go? How does a gent song come together? Tell me.
Oh, man. This project, I'm not so much involved in the writing, or I haven't been, because I was out of the band for a couple of years and they did a lot of writing. A lot of changes have happened since then. Really, we only have the three of us full-time members right now, so we're kind of rebuilding and getting ready for this Michigan Metal Fest show. It's our first show in a long while. But we've been writing pretty consistently, like getting together over video chat. It really just starts like the way it's been happening with Micah, our guitarist from Kentucky. He'll have a riff, and we write in Guitar Pro software a lot, so it's like you're punching everything in if you want before you record it or learn to play it. You can write out the music and hear it back.
Like a MIDI?
Yeah, MIDI guitar tab mapping with MIDI, and then it plays the notes back for you. Yeah, it's pretty good nice for writing, especially like writing harmonies and stuff or lead parts and stuff that maybe you wouldn't think of if you were just like jamming on your instrument. But yeah, just starts with that meat, like the meat of the song, the riff, or maybe it'll be just a groove or like a gent pattern or something. Wish I could play some of the new stuff as an example of what I mean, but it's a good question. I don't really think about it, I guess. It's just like writing anything else, I suppose. Like you would kind of you have a sound in your head that you like or want to bring out, and then
yeah, and I suppose the creative process is best that way too, when it's more intuitive and it is just you bringing that thought out of your head without much like, oh, hey, I need to make this song like this and this song like this.
Right. Yeah, like the stream of consciousness. But I mean, going back and editing and like reworking stuff is cool too, but definitely being in that creative flow is it's hard to like look back and then explain what it was. Or how it came into it. Like, memory's fuzzy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can safely say that some of my favorite creations, I'm glad were not like no one was recording or there while I was making them. Like a lot of the stuff I've made it like 1 in the morning, like stuck inside of my little bubble. Just, and if you ask me how I made it, I can try and come up with a way to frame it. But a lot of it was just me trying to get stuck deep inside of a moment and just get caught in that, whatever that creativity was.
Yeah.
So,
man.
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to describe the creative process for sure. I mean, you can put words to it. And I think what's beautiful about it too is that it's different for everybody. I mean, even the guy that you think is like, oh, whatever he's making, like it's trash. Even if you don't like it and you don't think it's good, there is a whole process that goes into what he's making. Like he or she, I suppose it could be anybody making anything. You see what they're making and you're like, and you're judgmental. But like in the end, that's a whole person trying to express some type of idea, no matter what it is. So it's a very interesting thing to me. I've tried to be a lot more humane when it comes to the way I view other people's art, because it's a very interesting thing, the way that you can express within whatever template you have.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, man. And that's why I like, that's one reason I've just always gotten really into music. It's like why I fell into it originally. It's just I found it to be the best way for me to use my voice and say things in a way that I think makes sense. Because to me, nothing really makes sense. So I'm almost like making sense of the world through music and through rhyme, and that's how it all started for me. And so I'm always stuck on that whole idea of like that's what the art's about, and I try to incorporate that in what I do, and it means a lot to me. So and people go the whole opposite direction a lot of the time, where they just get incentivized by the wrong things, and then they're not looking at art in this grand way, where it's like, it can be so much bigger than you if you just allow it to be. It really can be.
Now, I understand that what I just described requires a certain perspective. It requires a level-headedness, if you will, a certain peace with the universe. How can one achieve this? Well, there's many ways. One could meditate. One could look outside and listen to the birds and just go for a walk. Or one could go ahead and take CBD. CBD is a fascinating compound that helps with your sleep, appetite, mood, memory, so much more. It's awesome. It's very awesome. And I take it all the time. CBDfx is my favorite supplier of CBD. They got gummies, they got edibles, they got tinctures, all that good CBD stuff you're looking for. They deliver all over the place. They'll mail it right to you. That's how I get mine. They are fantastic. I'm telling you, they do all the things that you need them to do. And CBD helps you do all the things you need to do. And if you guys are interested, you can get $20 off your first order of $65 or more. All you gotta do is hop in the link in that description and make it happen. Anyway, let's get back to talking about how beautiful art is.
That's cool. Bigger than you. Yeah. It's not really even about you. I mean, you get to be the face that's presenting this thing, this creation, or, you know. But,
I like to look at it that way. Like, it's not about you. I remember I had a good conversation with Cam Lapine on the podcast a long time ago. It was a couple years ago now. And I had said that something about ego and how, like, I, as a rapper or as a musician, I would like to represent having no ego. And he was kind of saying something like how, like, to him, it makes more sense, like, as a rapper, you're the epitome of ego. That's what you are. Or even as a musician in general, like, you are ego. So I don't know. That was an interesting thing because I never really thought about it, like, the back and forth of that. It is kind of like a catch. You can't necessarily entirely be the artist without the ego.
Right.
But that is what I like to represent because that's where the
cool.
creativity really is.
Yeah.
When you let go of that ego and you just, that's where you get those undescribable moments. You know, it's like, I don't know, I wasn't even there.
Right. I was just, yeah. That's funny. Oh, man. Yeah, like you kind of surrendered your conscious awareness and memory to an idea and just became the vessel for that idea or like the tool for it.
Yeah.
To like do its thing inside of this dimension.
Dude, I like to think of it that way. I really do. Like I'm somehow channeling something. And there's different, I want to get his name right. I think it's Robert Altman. But I swear he wrote a book and he had this whole idea about the muse. And I hope I'm getting the name right. But he wrote a lot of books and he's just a very credited writer. And the whole thing was like you're drawing from creativity comes from like a certain type of muse, and he had a very eloquent way of describing it, but it was kind of like just this whole idea of like this ethereal thing, like there's a muse, there's this creative place that we all kind of know how to tap into and go to, and it wasn't like a mystical thing that he was describing, just more like the headspace even. Like if you're an artist, you know what that is. You know what it is to kind of tap into that when you're in that flow state or whatever you want to call it. There's something different that's in there.
Yeah.
That's why, that's why I really got involved with music.
Different.
I love getting lost in whatever that is. Live music particularly is one of the absolute best ways to get lost in that. Because when you're on a stage and there's a bunch of people participating in that, it's a whole different thing than when you're writing a song or when you're performing it in your band practice. It's so different. It's not even comparable.
Wow. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, what do you love about music? What is it that draws you to music?
The first thing you're talking about getting pulled into a process, or pulled into an idea, and then kind of just becoming obsessed with it or possessed by it to see where it leads to. You know
Yeah, because I really try to let it guide me. I don't know about you, but I'm all in. I'm like, where are we going here?
Just listening and kind of obeying.
Yeah, it's funny because I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, I think Rick Rubin talks about this a lot too. Like, it's just, he's like, in my mind, I just love to go there, and then the choices are obvious. Like, it just tells me where to go. And then when you disagree with someone on something, he's just like, no, it's saying it's this or something, and I don't know. Like, something's telling him something, maybe.
Well, I did see a clip where he was in an interview, and he was saying how, like, an artist they'll be looking at something and they'll see that it's C, and everybody else will be saying, no, it's A. And you'll say, no, it's C. And like, that's the artist. The artist is the one that's going to see it and call it out and be ultimately different. Rick Rubin's, I don't know if that's the same clip as what you're describing.
I think you're right. I think that's the one, yeah.
But
Much better.
he's a genius when it comes to the creative process. I mean, that guy, I love that he's doing more interviews and stuff like that because he
Me
just
too.
has an endless amount of wisdom when it comes to. I mean, and this if you just he's one of those people too where you can't even argue with it. You look at what he's been involved with, and it's so many different things. It's not like he has a type. It's so many different types of music. It's beautiful. It reminds me of what's beautiful about creativity. Is like you can do all those different things and have that touch that allows you to be a part of all that.
And creation and like just like existence or life. It's like you're getting to. Yeah, I mean it's the same thing, right? Life.
I think so. I think like
you're just touching life, or like letting it use you, or I don't know. That sounds weird.
I know what you mean, though. I mean, I feel like the best way to live life is to approach it in that way, to allow life to be as it is, right? And then you're freestyling with that, if you will. Like you're grooving with it. It's just a jam session with life, 24/7.
All right.
And if you do it that way, even if that's not like it's just the best way to do it that would make you happy. And you can do that in a million different ways. Like you can look at you can gamify life in your head if you want. Like, I have to do this in this amount of time. But you know what? If I just do this amount in this day, like you cut things up like that, you can find ways to make your goals things that aren't like shitty. They're just things that are going to make your life better. And it's all about the way that you look at things. So yeah, I think that's a big part of it is like just allow life to be as it is and just jam with that. And like it is really that simple in a way. Because I mean things are going to happen regardless of what you may or may not do. Just like if you're jamming with somebody and they all of a sudden switch it up on you. Oh, I guess I got to roll with that now. Yeah, and they switched the whole thing. So.
Well. Yeah, have you read The Music Lesson by Victor Wooten?
No. I need to get into books. Tell me more.
It sounds like ideas that you're talking about, relating music to life. You would love it. There's an audiobook. I don't know if you listen to audiobooks or, I don't know. Anyway, do you know Victor Wooten? Bass player. He invented like the double thumb. I don't know if he invented it, but he kind of, before Toast and Abasi of Animals' leaders made it famous, the thumping technique. He developed it, the down, up with the thumb, and then plucking with the rest of your fingers and making like a fast pattern. Anyway, can be used for gent, actually. But he wrote this great book, and The Music Lesson.
The Music Lesson?
Sounds like you've already read it, but...
Is this the type of stuff he says in there?
Yeah, he talks a lot like you. A lot like... Yeah, you just gotta check it out.
Interesting. Because, that's just kind of... The stuff I'm saying is just the conclusions that I've come to throughout my experiences with music and life. To me, I mean, I like to think of it as like, it is all similar if you want to look at it that way. Like, I mean, it all branches out. It's like a microscope, You zoom in on things, and then the further out you zoom, the more and more similar it all actually is. So, yeah, of course, music is one thing that's completely different, but you zoom out, and all of a sudden... you can connect all these things. That's why I say people should definitely get involved in whatever it is they're interested in. Because if you can get really good at one thing, that's good for you in a million different ways.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, you're learning about the thing, but you're also learning how to be interested in things. I mean, you're training yourself to like things, if that makes sense.
Oh. Okay.
That's why I'm glad I found music. I really am. I mean... Yeah. Were there any other reasons that you really like music other than that creative, just the creativity of it? Is there anything else that draws you to it?
Oh, well, of course. I mean, so many ideas are coming to mind. I guess I don't know which one to say. It's cool, man. I just like creation. I like the creation of sound and like harmonies and vocals and making sounds blend together that make people feel a certain way. Especially in recording. I love recording. I love being in that state of just knowing that I'm onto something or making something that I know that I'm going to dig. And so maybe other people will too. maybe it will impact the world in some small way or something.
Yeah. When you record, is it all in the moment, or is it like stuff that you've written beforehand? Like, are you writing right there and then recording?
Both. I mean, I'll usually write with the DAW, like write guitar, whatever instrument, write drums, maybe layers, other synth, keyboard or whatever, vocals, multi-track writing, and then maybe I'll go back and redo it.
Okay.
Or do it part by part.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of music I would like to do a final recording of. I think you'll have some good conversations with Jemmi, because he does so much of it, of the same thing. I'm interested to hear what he has to say.
You got any good questions for me to ask Jemmi? Because I got this notebook right here. If you got anything good for me to write down. Because I mean, it's funny. The people who tune into Ruse Radio, they watch the next episode. They'll see me ask all these questions to Jemmi. So
Okay.
here we go. Hit me with your best shot.
Best question to ask Jemmi Hazeman.
Jemmi Hazeman, by the way, for those that don't know, is I mean, you could just probably describe him better than me.
Oh, me?
Yeah,
he's like a cosmic alien. He's Jemmi Hazeman. His name is well, I'm not gonna say his name, his real name, because he's not a real person. That's what he would say. I don't know. That's how he would describe himself, maybe. But yeah, he's a musician. He's a man with a plan and a guitar. He moved to where? Madison Heights, I think, recently. He grew up in Lapeer. We just knew him. He's writing dope songs in his basement and producing albums and like drums and guitar and like great songs, great vocals, great quality recordings and mixes. And he was just doing on his own. And then he started Jemmi Hazeman and the Honey Riders, and that, they're still going strong, putting out new music, psychedelic indie rock, you know.
What does one ask that, man?
What is that? I mean, you could ask him about his favorite artist, but maybe that's not the best question.
I could. It's a good question, but it's not particularly creative, you know.
No.
It's a good question though. It's never a bad one.
You should ask him what. I would like to know what like makes him want to make music, or like what draws him to it.
Okay. I mean, that's because, I mean, to me, asking any musician that, I mean, I asked you that.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to me to see the things that pull people in.
Yeah, man. And what keeps them going. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, because that is another big part of it. Like, a lot of people that aren't longtime musicians or aren't really serious about it, those people aren't the ones that you can really ask those questions. The ones that are really into it, they have stuck to it for a long time.
Yes.
And that is not an easy feat. You have to care.
Yeah.
I mean, if you didn't care, you would have given up a long time ago.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, music's, I couldn't give up on it. I feel like I sunk too much time into it at this point. But I'm passionate about it. It's not, Jemmi would be an interesting guy to ask about that. One thing I've always liked about his sound is that I feel like it is very true to what he is, you know? Yeah, it's cool. It's just unique.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how much...
Different.
I mean, I guess I might as well just ask him these questions on the next episode, because I was going to ask some more questions about Jemmi, but I don't know.
Okay. Ask away, man. It's up to you.
Well, I'll wait to have him in. Guys, tune into the next episode. You'll see Jemmi. I mean, tell me more about your band. So with ZANG, how did that all come together?
Oh, it's interesting. So I was in Collapse Revive originally, and then I left in August of like 2020, I think. I went to a show to go see Werewolves, if you know Werewolves from Flint, over at Flint City Hard Cider. And there I ran into William Mintline. He's a drummer, guitar player, good dude, good friend. Anyway, he saw my solo music I was putting out, just the instrumental guitar stuff, and he was like, man, I want to play it in that. So we did. So we put out an EP. He recorded drums on it, and we played a few shows with that music under the name Ape with an Ego. And then we wanted to do like a cover thing on the side too, and it's kind of funny. We basically wanted to start this group with Eric Long, which is now the singer for ZANG. Eric's a super dope guitarist, singer, amazing singer, one of the best singers I've ever heard, let alone met. But we really wanted to start this cover group with him, me and him and Will. And then all of a sudden Will got picked up for, he said he couldn't do it because he was joining John Fett Quartet, which is, I don't know if you know them, cover band from Flint, play all over the place. They're awesome. They're called a tribute to rock and roll. Anyway, Aaron, for whatever reason, I don't understand, parted ways with John Fett. And then John Fett hired Will, which was supposed to be my drummer, or, how our original plan. And then now Aaron's out of John Fett Quartet and he doesn't have a band. And then me and Eric are just there, like, available. So Aaron decided to start ZANG after leaving John Fett Quartet. And, so he got the name from Wayne's World 2 in Cantonese. I think it's in both movies, actually. Wayne looks at the camera and goes, ZANG! And it's like excellent in subtitles. Excellent in the Cantonese language, perhaps. Anyway, it's fun to be able to make references, and we just use the Wayne's World font and the orange. And now we were practicing getting songs together for like almost a year, and then finally started playing gigs this year. Playing like 3 to 4 times a month with those guys. It's been good times.
What kind of songs do you guys do? Because I know it's rock. But...
Yeah, that's just kind of like a working rock cover band, but we do like, southern rock and a little country and a little like 90s alternative and stuff. Sublime. That's fun. I like doing those.
So what would you do if there's a drunk guy in the audience and he goes, Freebird!
I would say, tip us $500 and then we'll play it.
So
Yeah.
500, they will play Freebird. There you go. Listeners, now you know.
It's funny at our last show, right before we started, or while we were setting up, Eric was, he's like, my buddy's going to come out, and if he comes, we have to play Simple Man by Leonard Skinner. We're like, okay, it's 3 chords, we'll play it. And then, like, during our second set or something, a guy that was probably drunk, from what I could tell, walked up. He's like, if you guys let me sing Leonard Skinner, Simple Man, I'll buy you all a drink. We're like, okay, whatever. I said to Eric, I was like, is this the guy you meant? And he's like, no, I don't know who that is. So a totally random dude for the same song, except he wanted it. And then he did sing it. We played it, and he sang it. It was something. And, yeah.
Wow.
Then he bought us tequila.
Good for all parties involved. Sounds like a good night.
Yeah, that was cool. That was the first time I played out on the lake, or with the lake right there, on a dock or on a deck, on a deck outside,
Sounds nice. I did that one time, but it wasn't right. Were you close to the water?
No, there was kind of like a grass/beach area in front, and then water. Yeah, it's in Fenton. It's the Ponema Lakeside Lodge in Fenton. I think that's what it is.
It's a cool name.
Yeah.
Was it like what is that? Indian?
Ponema, maybe.
Sounds like it, or Native American, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, whatever.
But yeah, I mean,
probably.
It's definitely just a different vibe. I mean, even just outdoor performances in general. But when you have a good scenic backdrop, like were you playing? It was behind you, so if someone was looking towards you guys, they would see the water behind you. Yeah,
essentially,
cool.
Yeah, we're like off on the back corner of the whole dock or deck area.
Man, I would love that.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, because I mean, like, a lot of that is just, it's either if you get the right location or if somebody's having a house party and they have one of those houses.
Right.
That's really it.
Yeah, that would be fun too. Or festivals. I mean, not, you don't really get the lake with the festivals. Those are good outdoor shows. Yeah, I hope I get to play outdoors more this year.
Me too.
That'll be fun.
I mean, my Chicago plan, for those that don't know, Ruse is going to move to Chicago. You know, if you're watching this episode 4 months after it releases, I might already be there. So, yeah, I hope that there's a lot of outdoor venues there. There's got to be. And also, man, it's also on my list now, because I was just thinking about this as we're having this conversation. Rooftops. I want to perform on a rooftop.
Yeah.
That'd be sick.
That would be cool. Very cool.
And that's outdoors, too. So it's like, not only is it outdoors, but you're on a freaking rooftop. Like, that view is pretty cool no matter where you are.
True.
Yeah. So rooftops, outdoors in general. I'm trying to think of other cool places to perform. It's just, you know, like, are there any dream spots you can think of? I mean, any venues even, because I've heard so many people say, like, their dream venue. Someone asked me, I probably wouldn't have one. I wouldn't really know.
Yeah, I don't really know.
It'd be cool to perform in Madison Square Garden, but that's an easy pick, right? That'd be cool.
I don't know. Why not just pick any of them? Little Caesars Arena. Or how about Comerica Park?
Where even are those? I don't even know.
Those are both in Detroit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So there you go. Okay.
Comerica Park's where the Tigers play and all that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then I think Little Caesars owns both of them, the Little Caesars Arena and Comerica Park, because the same family owns the freaking restaurant and the baseball team.
Oh.
Now that sounds like a family to invest in. If you didn't already know, investing is a way that you can go ahead and make money, make more money. What? Yeah, investing's real. It's like magic. And if you want to go ahead and invest right now in this moment, in this present moment, you can. How can you do that? Well, a company called Robinhood. Robinhood made it nice and easy for people like you and I to go invest in whatever business, whatever company we want to. As long as they're on that stock market, you can invest in them. How do you do this? You just hop on their app. They got an app, a mobile app, and they got a website that makes it super easy. All you gotta do is connect your information and bing, bam, boom, you're ready to go. Their whole goal is to make it as easy as possible for people like us to access that stock market. I mean, come on, folks. We're all business people here, right? For all of the viewers of today's episode, you can hop in that link in my description and get one free stock on the house. Just go ahead, scroll down, hop in that link in our description, and get stocking, Captain. What were we talking about again? I think it was arenas?
I think it used to be Jets. So the owner of
Jets Arena has more of a ring to it than Little Caesars Arena, if that was the case. I hate when brands just name it after themselves. Like, come on, there's a cooler name you could have came up with there. It's something even in the Greek area. You could have came up with like a cool Greek name. But instead you just named it Little Caesars Arena.
Little Caesars Arena. Yeah.
Like, that's
It's not
why.
great.
What's that?
It's not a great name.
It's not a great name. It doesn't have a great sound to it. But
It's a cool venue.
it's a cool venue, I'm sure, yeah.
Saw Tool there. It was huge and loud and crazy lights and visuals. It was awesome.
What year?
It was 2019, so like right after the new album came out, and then right before COVID.
Yeah, and that was a wild time for us Tool fans when that album finally came out.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, Tool, I don't know when you truly got invested in them. I'm 25 almost here, pretty much 25, and I got into Tool probably around, I'm trying to think of the age. I want to say 13, but I got really into Tool. Like, they were all I listened to for months and months, maybe a whole 6 to 8 months. Like, I loved them.
Right on, man.
Yeah, and so I was right along with everybody else when it came to waiting for a new album because, I mean, I was 13 years old. If I'm 25 now, it's 12 years ago. As we record this podcast, it's 2013, so that was 2015. Probably even before that then. It might even been even longer before. But album came out 2019. Yeah, it had to be before. Because I feel like I waited a good 7 years for that album. I can't imagine being the guy that waited, how long was it, 15, 20? Took them a long time.
When?
The Tool from their
Oh,
It was 2006 to 2019, right?
Yeah.
It's 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was 8 years into that. Wait, but some people were 13 years in. Like, were you into them when they were dropping albums back in the day?
No, man, I didn't even. They weren't even really on my radar for a long time. I don't know how I didn't like listen to some of their like Lateralis or like Right Into or songs like that, because all I'd heard is like I heard Schism on the radio, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And I didn't even know like Sober and Schism were the same band when I would hear it on the radio. Like I just never picked up on it. But when I was 21, I was playing at a church, and this guy came in, Russell Wayne. He asked me to join his Tool tribute band, so I did, and then I really dug into their music. And I was 21 then, so that was 2016. Yeah, and I didn't have to wait that long for the album, about 3 years. That's when I became like, I had to become a fan. I was like learning all of the parts and like Adam Jones' weird, intricate techniques that he does that I've never heard anyone else do, like his percussive stuff.
You probably, when you accepted that gig, you didn't realize what you were signing up for.
I did not.
If you didn't know Tool.
All I knew, I was like, yeah, it's like they're a rock band. They got weird time signatures and stuff, and that's about it. And
that is kind of, I mean, if you want to simplify it down to like the very basics, you could say like the word you could add in, maybe there's weird, the weird rock band.
Weird, yeah.
With the odd time signatures. Did you already say weird? Did you say weird time signatures? Or did you use?
I think I said weird time signatures.
Yeah, we'll say odd. Well, the weird band with the odd time signatures. Because that's basically Tool, yeah. But I mean, there's a lot of different little intricate things in their music that makes it what it is. That's why it's impressive to see people properly play a Tool song.
Right.
I mean, the Tool cover. I mean, Tool drum covers go viral on YouTube, for sure. Mm-hmm. Do you remember any Tool songs in particular that were pretty tough to learn?
Oh, probably. There were some that were easier to remember, but hard to play in the band, like with 2 other guys. It was me and the bassist and the drummer and the singer, of course. But actually, Aaron, the drummer for ZANG now, I can't remember my own band's name. He joined Toolology with me too. That's where we first met. Actually, I first met him when he was running sound at Flint Local, which is where I met you first. Anyway, that was a long tangent. Probably Jambi. Jambi was like hard to memorize all those different patterns. And I would say Jambi is a borderline gent song, or that kind of started a little wave of it, I think.
It is. You're like right.
Open note chug patterns. But the kick drum rarely lines up because Danny Carey's so like, he always inserts stuff where you wouldn't expect to hear it, but it still fits so perfect that it sounds like it should be there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think they're probably like Jemmi Hazeman. They're probably aliens.
Yes.
That's my guess. That's why I think that's why I like them.
Yeah. Aliens write good music.
They sure do.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, Maynard has made a decent amount of appearances on interviews and all this, and he's just a really interesting guy. And that's just Maynard. I mean, he's the lyricist. And for me, as a songwriter, that's the guy I like to really hear from. That's what made me really get into Tool, was probably the lyrics and the very thoughtful way of writing that Maynard, I mean, it wasn't necessarily even just him, because, you know, he's openly said that all of it has to go off of the instrumental first.
Right.
So, I mean, like, it's just a really interesting thing to me to hear that type of poetry in that way. I mean, because I've always looked at it as poetry with all lyrics and all the way that you perform and all of it. It's just a beautiful thing if you use words in a certain way.
Right.
So that's what got me in there. But I can definitely see learning how to play it as an instrumentalist yourself. I mean, it's kind of very similar. Like you identified with it, I'm sure, in a way. Like as you're playing these songs.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, this is cool. Like this is kind of what I like to do with music.
Right. It is. Yeah, it definitely influenced me a lot. Like learning all that music, really, 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 especially my like rhythm guitar playing and I guess songwriting and like thinking about rhythms in different ways that I never would have thought would make sense before, I guess. It
Yeah.
definitely made something click in my brain, which is nice. But that's just kind of like pushing yourself in a new direction and practicing. We'll always do that in some way.
Not if you don't experiment, though. Like, if you don't know to experiment and you don't know that you like music that's a little bit more experimental. So there's
Right.
that. Like, that's one reason it'd be good to be into Tool and all that. Is
Right,
that they were probably one of the most notable experimental rock bands there are. I mean, them and System of a Down and maybe Rage Against the Machine are the three I can think of that are like really up there on the charts, but they're all like, they're nothing like any other rock music that is around them. There's nothing even close.
Primus.
Primus is another one, but I just don't know if they would reach the same like caliber. That's why I didn't mention them. But you're right,
I
Primus
see.
is incredibly unique.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Were they pretty successful? Because those three are the ones I'm thinking like commercial. Like everybody knows those guys. You bring them up. Primus is
Right.
one of those ones where it's a little bit more niche, a little bit more like.
Yeah, maybe.
But then, it's like, oh, well, have you heard South Park theme? Have you heard, like, there's a couple
Right,
Primus songs that everybo's like, oh, those guys.
Right, okay.
Primus is dope, though.
Well, Guitar Hero also, I think,
Yes.
John the Fisherman was when I first heard Primus, I think. And it was a cover on the game. They made a cover version for
Was
the
it
game.
Guitar Hero 3?
I played it on 2.
Okay.
I think it was, trying to remember. It was like by YYZ or something on the bottom of the list, maybe. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I'm on PlayStation 2, though, so I noticed the songs were different for Xbox or PlayStation sometimes.
Whack.
Yeah.
Primus
I don't
is dope.
Primus is dope, and I feel like maybe it's just because most of the people I know are musicians, and musicians know who Primus is usually, and that's why I think they're more. I don't know.
I agree. Well, and that's why I ask if they're more popular than I might realize.
Right. So maybe they're not. They're less popular than I realize.
You could go either way.
Yeah.
You're right. But I just know that, like, it's probably one of those things where if you ask, like, if you surveyed 100 people, like, it's less likely they would know Primus than definitely System of a Down, probably Rage Against the Machine, probably Tool. I feel like System of a Down's pretty popular for some reason. Like, they're very recognizable.
Yeah.
Most people know who they are.
Yeah.
It's one,
For sure.
even though like they're very, very different. I mean, that's why I bring them up. There's just only a few of those that I feel like really stick out of the pack.
about
Primus is another good example.
Red Hot Chili Peppers is kind of punk or pop.
Great example. You're right.
More pop.
Also, if you want to include something like this, maybe Gorillaz, but they're almost a little more pop.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Red Hot Chili Peppers, I would say, is definitely still rock enough to fall in there.
Rock enough.
Because there's a lot of rock influence. Like I mean, to me, a lot of it's just is the main thing of what you are is live instruments. Like, because if you're using a lot of computer generated stuff on your masters that you're releasing on radio singles and stuff, then at a certain point, to me, it's questionable whether or not you're even a band, right? If it's
Right.
MIDIs and all this on the master,
Yeah.
that's it.
You know,
I don't
I've
know,
thought
or
about
live.
I've thought about that too because everything that, not by my choice, or any of our choices really, but everything Collapse Revive has put out is programmed drums.
Oh, see,
I've never known what to feel about that, but the drummer we've had the entire time, it's like he recently just like left, but he never recorded or like never showed any like inclination to want to record, and it just never happened. So maybe it was just easier. Maybe they think drums sound just as good with some of these new packs that have been coming out with Get Good drums and stuff. But yeah, I don't know how to feel about that. That's a good point.
Well, so it wasn't intentional. It was
I mean, it was
just
intentional. Like that was the decision that was made. But I'm not saying that I like made the final decision. Or was
that,
it?
and I imagine it was like you had already pre-programmed it, and you were just waiting for him to record, and that never happened. And so that decision had to be made, right?
Basically.
Yeah, so it's like it's kind of just a shitty situation to be in. I do agree though that I wouldn't know about that either, because that's the problem with group decisions and being in something that's bigger than yourself is like you might not approve of it creatively, but in the end it's not entirely yours. It's tough, but I just feel like when people listen to music, there's something about what's real and what's not real. And you can, it's like the uncanny valley thing. It's just you identify with what is human and what is not.
Right.
I think that's one reason I love doing podcasts in person, because there's a human element to that. If I did it over Skype or a phone call, it's a completely different thing than someone
Right.
showing up and us being in the same room. So with that being said, I think people will hear a song with programmed drums, and they're like, even though they might not know exactly what that is,
Yeah.
there's something off-putting about that.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I think people, like you said, it's weird. Like, for whatever reason, something inside them says, like, I'm not going to listen to this again, or something. And I feel like that has been, I don't know, I'm not going to say any talk. I'm not gonna like vent in a therapy session about my struggles in my own band, but you know,
making music is hard though, man. I mean, if anything, I would have to imagine that for any musicians watching this and hearing you say something like that, they know exactly what you're talking about when it comes to just like making exceptions, or even hearing your mixes and knowing they're not entirely what you want them to be. I mean, it's hard to accept that, and the fact that you can even admit it is a good thing. Because I mean, there's a million things about my earlier mixes. There's even a mix I released not that long ago, like 6 months ago, where I listen to it now and I'm like, oh man, like if I would have just leveled this a tiny bit differently, it could sound so much better. But it's already out. I can't do anything about it.
Yep.
I'm not gonna say which one it is, but it is. It's definitely out there. So yeah, and it's just one of those things where it's you live and you learn. I mean, if that's really how you feel about it, the only thing you can do is like keep that in mind. Like, what would a Jedi warrior do, bro? A Jedi warrior would take that information and run with it. They'd be like, okay, so this is how that feels when you hear those drums. Like, maybe I can't affect it in this instance, but like I will know that forever, because to me that's like. That's it. You can't break away from that. There's never going to be MIDI drums that are going to sound as good as a real drummer, especially a good drummer.
Right.
That you can't beat talent. You can't beat soul. It's just not there inside of a MIDI. I mean, I thought for a second you were going to say that all of your everything was MIDI. Because earlier you did say you start out with the guitar as a MIDI sometimes, but only the drums. Only the drums.
I've written guitar in MIDI, but I always learn it and record
exactly.
it.
That's what, I thought you were saying that you kept it as MIDI for a second.
No.
Whoa, no way.
Sometimes it's nice to have that, though, too, because, like, then if you want to, like, layer that part as a synth or something like that.
100%. That is actually a
in.
great way to look at it. Or even to keep, just to have it, because you can even just tweak it a little bit and make the synth a tiny bit different of a melody.
Or a harmony.
To turn it into a harmony, Because, I mean, there's a million things you could do there. Then it's totally cool. Like, any band should have that type of stuff with FX, because I think that just falls into that FX category at that point.
Right.
Like, you're not replacing your instruments, you're enhancing them.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead.
Oh, you're good. Go ahead.
I mean, I just think it's something that a lot of bands, like, they don't usually do at first. Some of them do, but for particular genres or particular styles, it makes more sense. But for most things, it just makes more sense to explore a little bit with those synths and just those different sounds, especially for your studio mixes. You don't even have to use them live. Just when you're refining that sound for that final master, what are you really trying to get across? Like, is there more here that we can do before it actually comes out? Because I think as a band, you have so much more wiggle room than you do as some guy who just bought a beat. Like, there's so much stuff you can do here. It's all yours.
Wow. That's cool.
I've always liked making music as a band more for that reason, because it really does feel more organic, I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can see that.
You don't have that rap life. You don't know about that.
No. I've never been a rapper.
It's much better to be in a band. It's much more fun. It feels more like a family.
Right. Well, I mean, I kind of feel that way. Like, I have music I've put out in, like, that band, the instrumental EP that I put out. That's the only thing I've ever put out that has live drums on it. It's just 4 songs. But that felt like just kind of like me, like my solo project, I guess. And I had my drummer, and actually Will did help a little bit with some writing or like structure stuff. Had some suggestions, but yeah, and then I have like a punk solo project too. But I released an entire album of that, but it all has programmed drums, and no one knows it exists, so it's gonna get re-recorded with real drums for sure.
Solo projects are fun though.
Yeah.
Because I'm not saying never do things by yourself.
No.
I'm just saying I do like I think it's a whole different vibe. It's a better vibe when you're with a group. It's just something more organic and collaborative. But when you're by yourself, especially if you're not always by yourself, dude, I'm telling you, I bet you're making some magic over there. I bet you got some good stuff. Because, I mean, you can really go your own way when it's your own thing.
For sure.
And if you're making it with the instruments, too, I mean, you're making these songs from scratch?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, so there you go.
Which ones?
Just the ones on your solo project.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's all you, so I imagine you start with some pattern just like anything else, and then boom, there we go. And that's just, it's fun to cut out the middleman. And just, you know, there's nobody that's like, hey, does this sound good?
Right.
That never happens when it's all you.
Right. Yeah, I do like that, actually. I mean, maybe that's where the Ape with an Ego name comes from, but yeah, I don't know if that sounds egotistical, but I do like that a lot. I like just composing. Like, I like writing with other people, but I've always done my best work by myself, I've found. Because I don't find it as easy to like fall into that muse. I'm not sure, maybe you called it a muse, but that stream of life energy, creative energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
I find it easier to fall into that when I'm working alone, usually.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's kind of why I've always liked working by myself, and even just in general in life. I mean, it's harder for me to stay focused if I have other people around.
Yeah.
Just as simple as that. Like, if it's probably partially just because I get invested in things, so you're right there, and now I'm paying attention to you. I just care that you're there, so now I'm worried about what's going on.
Right.
Whereas if you're not there, that doesn't exist in my brain at all. I'm not even thinking about it. And I've experienced that on a million different scales, and I'm sure we all have. And so with music in particular, it sticks out because it's like you're sitting there, and if you're making it by yourself, you're not thinking about what's this guy going to think about what I just did here.
I hate that.
Yeah.
That intrusive thought. But it still sneaks in randomly anytime.
It can destroy a band. That's usually a lot of what it is just disagreements, and a lot of it can be about sound or philosophy and all these things. Like, it's hard to stick together as a band because of caring about what the other guy thinks. And, you know, bands work best when they're not worried about that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to be creative because you're kind of in survival mode if you're like that, you know?
Yeah.
Which does not allow creativity, I wouldn't say.
Yes.
Or it hinders it.
It hinders it. I was once in a situation where a band and I had a falling out, and we were doing pretty well, and I liked the way things were going, but
I think I know what band this was.
Yes,
yeah,
and I'm not saying their name on purpose out of respect, but we had a falling out, and the whole problem was that in their eyes, the writing was not exactly what it could have been. And they were looking for something else. But that wasn't the philosophy originally. And I also theorize and have somewhat confirmed that that was stemming from a particular band member. Like, there was a certain person who felt this way, and that can just... That's how it happens with bands. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's like I just had this happen to me once, but this happens all the time with bands.
Oh, yeah.
It's why you see like, even famous bands, they just can't stick together for years and years and years. Because, it's hard to stay. Have you ever stayed with a person for years? So that was it. And it was like originally what I was doing was working, and now I guess it's not. And so I tried to switch it up in the way that I thought was appropriate, and that still didn't work out, and it all just kind of fizzled away. And it's sad to me because what was being done, to me, was working. And it's just a disagreement. It's just a creative disagreement. It's somebody coming in and going, well, I don't know. I mean, maybe we should do it this way. And like you said, it's not the best working environment at that point, because now I'm kind of walking on eggshells every time I write something.
Yeah.
Before it was chill, it was a vibe.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, so I better write this one a little bit more like what they're expecting me to write, because I don't want to get any shit. All respect to all parties involved. I mean, it was a while ago anyway, and we all learn from everything. We all make mistakes. So I'm sure I wasn't perfect at the moment either. I'm not perfect now, but it's just, yeah, man, it's hard being in a band. What do you do when you're in that position? For either person, like what do you do? There's nothing good. The politics of it sucks.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Your bands have been doing pretty well for a while. I know that the cover band is relatively new, right? They're last year, and then...
Yep.
Yeah. And
started last year.
Yes.
Almost exactly a year ago. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Nothing, no problems, no hiccups along the way. We've been having a great time with our bands.
And I think sometimes I feel like I'm cutting out part of the soul of music by thinking about it this way, but it just feels mostly like professional working environment. Like we just go and we play music and we're there to entertain, and we show up to practice to get the songs ready, and we're not like in a creative thing, so there's nothing to like get upset about in that regard of like what we're gonna write or like, you know, creative stuff butting heads. Maybe like about like who sings what song, or like, I don't know, even that doesn't happen. It's been pretty smooth. I don't see it getting, you know, complicated.
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward. But yeah, Collapse Revive though has definitely been a you know, all over the place, ups and down, family, I guess, maybe dysfunctional at times. But yeah.
That can also feed into the music. I mean, with everything that goes on. I mean, you know, if you can capture some of that and put that into it, it can also make things even better.
Yeah.
I mean, Collapse Revive was 2018, right?
I think, yeah. That's when we started, like, we didn't put out any music till the following year, but I think, yeah. No, I joined in 2019, but it had started at 18, yeah, I think, by the founding member who's now gone.
And that'll do it right there. That'll cause a lot of shake-up, for sure.
Founding member leaving?
Yeah, because, I mean, you know, you want to stay true to what the band is, so that's one part of it. But the other part of it, it's just like, what are we doing from here on out? Like, logistically speaking, how are we moving forward? I wanted to ask you, too, as you were saying all that, do you make a living off of your music, or do you make a lot of money? Like, I guess not how much money you make off it. I'm sure you make money from playing live and all this, but is it what you do for a living?
Yeah, teaching and gigging are very lucrative, I would say.
Yeah, so those are the two things.
That's like my main income. But original music, I make some off of, you know, recording, producing for clients or whatever. No, I don't make a living from playing in Collapse Revive or anything like that.
Okay.
Not at the moment, anyway.
I just asked because of the way you described it, about looking at it like work. And of course you'd love to, yeah.
ZANG, yeah. ZANG.
So ZANG you look at that way. Collapse Revive's a little different, the way that you would look at that. It's a little bit less of a work environment type of deal.
Yeah, I mean, it is work, but it's work fun, I guess, creating, writing.
Well, yeah, cover bands are definitely just a different type of deal, though, for sure, too.
Yeah, the job is understood in ZANG, and it's still fun. I love to do it, and I still get to play music and get paid to play music, but, you know. But that kind of simplifies it a little bit. But yeah, that's, you know, ZANG and teaching guitars is the living right now. I would definitely love to move into producing and just producing my own and other people's music for a living. And I know that's a whole network of online finagling that has to go on these days now with the age that we're in.
I think it's a little bit of online and a little bit of in-person.
Yeah.
Because for me, from my personal experience, a lot of what's made things blossom more for me is doing stuff like this, like what I'm doing literally right now.
Right.
Just the fact that I hit you up and we're doing this podcast,
Same.
it might create some connection that I'm not aware of.
Right.
Similar to, we could even look at an example between the two of us, because right after I messaged you, you said that thing, hey, you should interview Jemmi Hazeman. And like we said earlier on the podcast, it's already all lined up. It's kind of funny that you messaged me that, because I had already messaged him like in the same stream of messages when I messaged you.
Nice.
So, but you said that because you had seen a video I did with him a while ago where I did when I was doing the 60 Seconds with interviews.
Yeah, I remember he told me about it after you asked him.
Yeah.
He was excited about it.
Which is just cool. And the 60 Seconds interview is with Jemmi Hazeman. You can still find it on YouTube. Fantastic episode, fantastic interview.
Yes, it was good.
Great guy. I mean, I just stopped by, we talked for a minute, filmed the interview, I dipped. That was how the whole show always went. So it'd be nice to get a full-on chat with him. And it's just funny that that thought was already in the air, like it was already created through the interview I did previously. And again, that's what I'm talking about. It's that thing that you don't even realize you're doing as you're doing it. I never thought, oh, this guy's going to want me to have Jemmi Hazeman on one day. But that's what happens. So I think that's really the way you make connections. Like, yeah, online finagling's big. And I suck at that too, believe me. But like the in-person thing is what really is effective, because people remember you. If you are a cool dude and they just think you're cool, they're like, oh, okay, this is a stand-up guy. They respect you and they'll keep that in mind. Yeah. And if it's the right guy with the right connection, that's all you need in the music industry for sure.
That's a good point. Well, and then I think more so I should have said, like, the most important thing is like just spending as much time as you can on your craft and getting really good at it. Like you're saying, getting really good at one thing or the thing that you're doing, whatever your thing is. And I feel like the overflow of that should lead to content and stuff to share with the world through, social media or having, your body of work, making a lot of stuff. I don't know. That's what I've been thinking about a lot lately more is you should just be pumping out songs all the time. You should just always be writing or always be making as often as you can.
Yeah, I've been getting on myself a lot about the amount of stuff I've actually put out, because I've realized that the way I conceptualize like what I am and what, if you want to call it my brand, like what my brand is to people. Like when people see me and the art I put out, what are they seeing? And in my mind, it's so much bigger than what it actually is. And so, and that goes for how much music I'm putting out. That goes for even like the amount of podcasts. That's why I'm trying to put out a lot more, because I want it to be a thing where it's like, oh, this guy has on anybody. He'll just bring in anybody. And the only way that happens is if I reach out to 1 million people. Just like where it's like, I want to be the guy where it's like, oh, this guy drops a shit ton of songs. This guy's always dropping music. He's that rap guy. He's that podcast guy. Oh, he's that rap guy. The only way they'll see me those ways, the way that I think I want them to see me, is if I'm constantly doing those things. So it's like you just said, like you got to drop so much music if you want to be the guy that people recognize you as, the guy who's like when they find out you drop music, they go pull up your Spotify. Oh shit, he's dropped 20 songs this year, and then they'll check some of them out, and that's like they all of a sudden they're looking at you completely differently than they were before. So yeah, it's just I've gotten that a lot too, and I've also the thought I've been thinking about a lot is mastery, and just the idea of getting really good at one thing. The idea of like the only way I'll ever like level up and be particularly good at a certain skill is if I master that skill. And that takes a long time.
Yeah. Mastering. Whoa.
There you go. Sorry if I threw that thing at you. I wasn't looking up.
Oh, you're good.
But is that better? Is that microphone positioning good for you?
Yeah, it's cool.
All right. I just saw you were fixing it. I was trying to ease, be an assistant. This is why Ruse Radio needs an assistant, because I'm the guy for everything around here, okay? All right, my life's hard, guys. But yeah, what were we just on about right before that whole microphone shenanigan?
Talking about leopards or something.
Leopards, yeah. It was probably leopards.
Yeah.
Snow leopards.
Or spare iguanas, like the iguanas you get that are the spare ones.
Yeah.
Spare iguanas.
Spare iguanas.
Sounds like marijuanas.
Yo. Yo, my homie handed me this shit. It was called Iguanas. I started smoking on them. They tasted like marijuana.
Yeah, do it.
Bars.
Throw it in there.
Yeah, I might just save that one for a rainy day.
Ask Jemmy about Iguanas.
I will. I'll have to. I don't have my notebook in front of me. I'm making a mental note. Guys, when you watch the next episode, make sure you check out the part where I asked Jemmy, hey, how about those iguanas?
Check out that one part. Do you make clips?
Yes, I do.
Nice.
I do. And because you're friends with me on Facebook, so you might see them on my Facebook stories. I also post them on Snapchat stories. I post them on TikTok. I also post them on YouTube, on the Ruse Radio YouTube shorts. So they're all over the place. The clips are actually, it blew my mind, dude. The clips are, more people view those than they view the whole podcast. Like, it's kind of senseless for me not to be making them.
I noticed that too, yep.
It's just...
bite-sized media.
Well, I don't even mind it because, like, I consume a lot of podcast clips. I get it.
Yeah,
it's just like I also watch full podcasts. A lot of people don't watch full podcasts at all. They only watch the clips.
True.
How? I mean, how? Like, maybe some if they're just not particularly interesting with the clips. But, like, if I see a podcast and I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like, at a certain point, I'll go out of my way to tune in because, like, that's the whole point. That's what they're trying to do. So... True. Yeah, bite-sized media is a tough thing. And I've tried to embrace it in different ways. Like, with the way that I make music, I've tried to make a lot of, like, mini songs almost and just make it as a mini music video. So you're getting a full little music video in that bite-sized thing. But, yeah, it's not a 3-minute song. It's not the same thing. Right. Believe me, it's not. Because it's like when you're writing a song, it's a whole different thing.
Right.
When you're writing a 60-second song, you're kind of doing a particular dance.
I never thought about trying that 60-second songs.
It works, man. I mean, because if you can, especially if you can do the videos well enough, that's you can do it as music promotion, because that's one way I've been doing it, where it's like you literally just grab a snippet of your song and you just make mini music videos, because that's easy. I mean, you already have songs out, so you just grab a good 20 seconds that you think might be promotable, might have a little tune to it, a little catch. Maybe it's the hook, maybe it's part of the verse, bridge, whatever it is. Catchy.
Hooky tune, catchy. Catchy tune.
Catchy tune. You get a little catchy tune, you throw that in people's ears.
You could.
All you gotta do is get that catchy tune in their ears for just the 5 seconds it takes, and then they're like, "Oh, what's this song?"
Yeah.
But the problem is, like, that's how most people find songs now. So you really have to embrace that. And but you can do it with songs you've already dropped, or you could just write a 60-second song and make it specifically for that form of media. And if you make it from scratch, you can also drop it. So actually, that's even better, because I'm not like you. I'm not making solo music with instruments from scratch. If you're doing it that way, you can even drop it on platforms and just have it be a whole thing.
Well, how do you write your music? What are you using?
I'm mainly, like, because I'm hip-hop centric, like, I'll still do stuff that branches out from hip-hop, but mainly what I'm doing is the same thing a rapper would typically do, where I'm finding a beat or some type of pre-assembled thing and then going over that.
I thought you made your own beats.
No. And I used to a while ago. Like, if you go on my Spotify and you go all the way back to the album Realist and Con Artist, I made a lot of those beats. With they were all sample based. But it's just like, I don't know. I feel like I'm putting a part of my brain, I'm putting too much of my brain towards a certain thing that I'm not particularly passionate about. Like, I can make a good beat, but it's not where my head should be. And so,
I'm gonna make you a beat. I'm gonna send you one.
Please do.
I'm gonna do that.
Please do, because I mean, if it's particularly good, I mean, dude, that's going on all platforms. It is. But I'll tell you, like, Ruse got standards, but you got experience, so I believe in you. All right, I want to see what it is, because, like, if it's really good, I'll put it out there. Like, I'm always looking for beats, and even if it's like something that doesn't blow me away, I will find a way to do something with it. I promise. But I want you to make something for me. I will do something with it. I just don't want to guarantee that I'm going to put it out on all streaming platforms or anything.
Don't do that.
Yeah. Well, but man, I believe in you though. I think it'll be great.
Wow. Thanks.
Yeah. I just, like, it's when I've realized, like, I'm only a little bit popular, and, like, people will start hitting you up and being like, "Yo, will you rap on my beat? Will you rap my beat?" And at a certain point, you have to have boundaries. Like, you got to be like, "Okay, well, show me the beat first."
Right. Yeah.
You got to start doing that.
I just like to make beats, so I was gonna
Please do.
Do one with you in mind.
I'd love to hear it, man. And you know, I think that we have similar philosophies with music, so I think you might be able to hit me with something that, you know. Have you heard a decent amount of what I do with like rapping and because I don't only do hip hop, but that's a lot of it.
I see a lot of your TikToks, and I did listen to your Spotify. Because I first saw you way back in the day at Flint Local. It was the first time.
Was it during the band days? Or was it during my solo music?
You were by yourself. I think you were rapping over tracks. And I think you opened, or we played on the same bill as like my old local band.
What was the name?
Nowadays was the band back then.
Nowadays. ADAZE.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think the Lemoncollies were there, but they were under the name
No Vacancy.
No Vacancy.
Oh, dude, that was the first show I ever played.
Really?
That was my first show
ever.
That
was so good.
Wow, no way.
I remember being really impressed and really enjoying it. But
now, if you remember me performing then, do you remember that I never broke away from that microphone? I stayed connected to that thing the whole time.
I remember that, yeah.
Because, that was my first performance ever, and that's what I took away from it, is I remember, like, God damn it. What happened was I couldn't figure out how to get it out of the thing. And like I couldn't, I didn't. I've never performed before. And if I had went up there first, like before I performed, I would have yanked it out just to make sure that wasn't gonna be a problem. Like if I knew, but yeah, it was.
I didn't know that.
So I just stood there and just didn't move around the whole time. I just dealt with it. But it's very funny that you witnessed that because that was the main thing that stuck out for me. I was like, God damn it, I can't even. and for me, that was the beginning of a lot. Yeah, that was very cool that you were there. I remember that day very well. I mean, it was a nerve-wracking day for me because I don't know if you remember the first day you ever performed, but you know, it especially because it's all my material. Like I'm just going out there and just rapping my raps.
It was good, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, I remember it was awesome.
I mean, it might be documented somewhere, maybe.
Probably.
I mean, shout out, Joel Rash. I think he's coming on the podcast. I think I've got him starting to get lined up. But he's the guy who made the local, and without him, none of that would be possible. So shout out Joel Rash for sure.
Yeah, he's the reason we all first met, maybe.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's a great way to look at it. He is kind of a big connector out here when it comes to like a lot of musicians and a lot of people that are into making art and into their craft or whatever. I mean, the dude's he's been following that path for decades, as far as I know. I mean, he's never really broken from it.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Just staying with that local thing, that whole idea of like supporting local, and you know, he's never gone Hollywood on us. And without the Flint local, I wouldn't be who I am. I don't think. I mean, it was the only venue around here I really had to perform at coming up.
Same, I remember that. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't go play at a bar or at a venue or something with my high school band. You know.
Exactly. Same here. Like, you know, well, just imagine being a rapper. It's even worse.
Right.
With your high school band, you can at least like maybe make it work, even though it'll be awkward. Well, I guess if not if you're below the age limit, that's the problem there. But when the Lemoncollies were together, we were definitely hitting a decent amount of alcoholic locations.
Yeah.
Like, it's still possible. It's just like, it's not the perfect fit. Whereas the local's like an actual venue.
It's made for that reason. For kids to be able to play, or like all ages to be able to play there. Yeah, man. I've had some good times there. That's where I think at that show, Aaron, the drummer for ZANG now, he was running sound. I think that was the first time I ever met him, when he was packing up for the night.
Really?
And then, so from that night, right after Russell asked me to join Toolology, like years later after that night, he told me the drummer backed out. So I remember Aaron, I had met him from the Flint local, so I hit him up on Facebook, and I was like, "Don't you dig Tool?" He's like, "Yeah." And then I was like, "I'm about to join a tribute, but our drummer backed out, and we need a drummer. And you play drums, right?" And then he joined, and then we met through that, and then that's the reason I think ZANG was able to start. All because I met him that night. But maybe it would have happened some other way. Who knows?
Was that the same night
I don't know.
I think their name was the Kitson Sisters, and it was 2 little girls.
I think maybe, yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
They were the openers, if I'm correct. And that's when I really learned, like, oh, the locals, all ages, okay. Because it was 2 little girls, and they went on stage, and they performed. It was adorable.
Yeah.
But I just remember, like, I was about to rap, and I'm seeing this.
Yeah, you unlocked some memory I don't remember having.
I'm amazed I got their name, because it was that. It was the Kitson Sisters, for sure.
I remember that now.
2 little girls.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, you unlocked the memory for me, man. When you brought that up, I was like, holy shit, yeah, you were there.
Yeah. It was a long time ago.
Yeah. I mean, that was the first time I had really had a connection with Lemoncollies, because they were No Vacancy then. So it was also peculiar to me that they had performed that day.
Yeah, I'd always wondered that if that's when you met.
No, yeah. I didn't really get familiar with them until when I had actually joined the group. So I had known of them, and I was familiar with their material, but it was never like we knew each other or anything like that. But that's why I say all that stuff about being in a band, too, because that was that experience. And, you know, I really wish that stuff was still on Spotify. It's since been re-released on, I think they dropped it on their YouTube. So if you go to Lemoncollies, you can still find the album Gloomy Bloom that we made together.
I have it on CD.
You do?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Dude, so the problem is I don't have a way to burn the file, but I really wish I could have those original mixes.
Yeah.
The CD is the best quality that I can find anywhere, and I just don't have it.
I think that's the version I bought from, because Jemmi played with you guys at, Good Beans Cafe or something like that. Right? I don't know.
Yeah, I remember that show for sure.
Yeah, I think
in the Antidote studio, the Antidote room, whatever it's called there.
I don't know.
It's got a cool name.
I bought the CD from you guys there, or I bought 1 CD. Maybe I have 2. I don't know.
That was a kick-ass show. There actually is a video like from that particular show. I was feeling myself that night.
Yeah, and I remember that. Yeah. I'm like, all I could think was like, that's the kid that was rapping at the Funny Local, I'm pretty sure. And then, it was you. Turned out to be you. But yeah, that was a great show. And I believe I bought the CD from that show. So yeah, I could totally rip that.
Please
send the files over.
If there's any way, like if you could send it as a folder or something on like WeTransfer in a way that's not gonna diminish the file quality.
Will Google Drive diminish it?
No, Google Drive will do it. That's the perfect way. Because like that's just the problem is I've never, since the group has split up and all that, I've never had the original masters, and I've never had access to one of the CDs. I would remaster all those songs. If I had all the stems, I would go from the ground up because I really loved those songs.
I think Jemmi did a mix of
He
one
did,
of them.
Dream Vision.
Yeah, that was dope. That's still on SoundCloud.
It is.
And Spotify, I think. Or it's on Jemmi's SoundCloud, I'm pretty sure. Perhaps. Yeah.
Although I'll say, as the songwriter, he made a controversial decision in my mind. He put the lyrics of the first verse over the second verse. So it's like you're hearing both of them at once. And in my songwriter brain, I'm like, no, that's not the structure that I intended. But you know, it's a remix, and I really like what he did with it.
Oh, okay. So that version didn't have you on it then?
It did. But what I'm saying is that he took, because he had all the stems, so he took the first verse's stems and he put them over the second verse. Like he layered it
on purpose.
On purpose, which it works. But it's like just because I wrote it, that I hear it and I go grrr. It's one of those things. I really do like what he made, and I think he had a guitar solo he threw in there too. That was pretty sick. Yeah. I mean, that was my first real exposure to what he does, because I've heard his original material, but to hear him remix my music, it's like, whoa, okay, this guy's really, he's onto something.
Did you record all of that?
With the original song or with Jemmi?
No, the stems that he got.
Yeah, we had recorded it.
You did?
Not me, but I believe it was Shay. And Shay was the one that was mainly handling the recording, if I'm correct. Because then we would all just kind of leave it to Shay. I did record my own vocals, and I wish I had I don't know. I was kind of being a prima donna about it back then. I was like, oh no, I know how to record vocals. But dude, I was an idiot. Like I would record in the living room where the computer was at my mom's house. And there was no sound treatment in the room. There's literally dogs running around behind me. Children have been caught in some of my older recordings trying to talk to me. And I was like, nah, I'll just keep it. Like, I'm telling you, I should have not been recording that stuff. So... But yeah, I was recording that. Beyond that, it was all Shay, and it turned out pretty decent. The drums, I can't remember how Shay handled that, but and Ethan, great drummer.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, I don't know if he's still doing drumming though at all.
I think he just followed me on Instagram the other day, or maybe it was one of the other. No, isn't. Oh, I can't remember all their names right now.
Well, there's Ethan, Shay, and Justice. Those are the three.
Yeah, Justice. No, it was Ethan. Yeah. Yeah, great drummer.
Great drummer. And Justice also great bassist. Shay, great guitarist. I mean, they're all fantastic musicians in their own right. That's why that group worked.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you brought up that. I think it's the Anta Room, not the Antidote Studio, not the Antidote Room, the Anta Room. But at the Good Bean, yeah. And I'm glad. I think I'll find a way to upload the little bit of footage I do have from that show, because I know exactly which song it is. It's Winterlude. And then there's a little bit of, because Winterlude went right into Breezy. That was what was cool about it. It's like an interlude that was meant to flow right into Breezy.
Right.
And yeah, it's a shame that things didn't work out, because like that whole album to me was a concept album. Like I was being thoughtful about the way I wrote this stuff. But again, it's like that muse thing we were talking about. Like I was just approaching it like I approach any music I ever would, where it's like, you guys give me an instrumental. Kind of like the Maynard James Keenan thing. Like, you guys give me an instrumental, I'll give you the best thing that can go on top of that instrumental. Like, I'm just going to make the best thing that works with that. Like, I don't want this to not fit that. And so, like, I'll hear it, and then I'll think, what's the best way for it to contribute to this? And it had a whole theme about, like, summer and winter and, like, the seasons, and there's a lot of that. Like, if you listen back to it, it's all about seasons and change, and there's this whole concept that's running through the whole thing. But it's never really about anything. It's never really anything, because I want you to be able to take away a million things from it. And, you know, I don't know if that was understood. I don't know if that's I don't know if a lot of people get that with art, man. I think that's the beautiful thing, is like, we take away different things from it. You know, it's not simple. It's not me telling you what A to Z is. It's me showing you one way you can get to A to Z yourself. Right. But, like, not even really showing you. Art's cool. Art is cool. I have a deep love for art and music and all of that. I'm just running back to that spot back earlier in the conversation, I suppose, because it's just one of those things. It's one of those things I really do care a lot about.
Yeah.
I'm very esoteric and like spiritual about art. I'm very like deep into the philosophy of it. And then the way it extends beyond the self. You know, it's a cool thing, man. And I think it's one of those things that it's one of the ways that we as humans get to identify with that and interact with that. We get to actually see what that is, because a lot of the time we're so caught up in human life and adulting and whatever you want to call it. Like the more and more life stacks up, the less and less you get in touch with that creative. That child, whatever it is inside of you that wants to just do more and see more.
Divine spark.
Yeah, the divine spark. You lose it. And
like a seed of the universe.
Yeah. And art reignites the seed of the universe, I think. I think it plants that seed in a way. It plants that seed, and it's up to you to let that seed grow and to water it.
Yeah, there's definitely like some mystical divine thing that is art or creativity or creation. It's all ties together. Maybe.
I heard a beautiful quote where someone said that, like, I'm not gonna get it right, but it's like, basically, if you're watching people dance silently, the only reason it looks crazy is because you can't hear the music. And to me, that's like a very profound way to look at that. Like, you know, music ignites something. If you're looking at it and not seeing it that way, you don't even understand the magic that's happening there. Like, if your brain's on mute and you're not listening to the beauty of that interaction.
Right.
Yeah, because like, have you ever just seen people dancing, man? Just like thousands of people dancing at a concert? That's crazy.
Yeah,
The
it
fact
is.
that that's even a thing that happens is crazy.
It is. Yeah.
Like, you can influence people with just wavelengths
Yeah.
in ways that is incomprehensible. Different people are walking away from that experience with a whole different takeaway from it.
True.
They don't know. You can't create this ultimatum of what the music was. It's
Right.
bigger than what it is. I love music for that.
Bigger than what it is.
Yeah, music is really cool for that when done right. I
Yeah.
think because it's very easy for. I mean, I don't know. In a way, music that might even be meaningless to you is bigger than what it is in a sense. I mean, that music, as I said before, it arrived there through some thought process.
Yeah.
There is something thoughtful about that music.
Means
Whatever.
something to somebody.
It could be literally a couple siren sounds. That could be the full song. If that's the song, it could be a song to somebody. So
yeah,
that's,
man.
again, it's one of the beautiful things about music. It's interpretive. It really is. It's art. You know, you look at a certain painting, you say, why would this painting be $4 million? Because somebody says so. Why is
Somebody
this?
says so.
Yeah. Why is this song so popular? Because a bunch of people said so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, music is it's the same thing. There's definitely songs that have gotten big where it's like, okay, well, maybe that wasn't like Citizen Kane level thinking there. Maybe that song wasn't another what's a Bohemian Rhapsody. That's a good song. That's a good example. That was not Bohemian Rhapsody. Definitely not. But it was, you know, Soulja Boy's good.
Yeah.
I love Soulja Boy. I get down to Soulja Boy easy. People ask me, what should I put on? I say Soulja Boy. I do. I'm not lying. And they're like, are you serious? I'm like, yes. I can give you a couple examples if you don't know any of his songs.
Oh, man.
But it's an expansive thing. It's just like anything. And that's why I like it. It's just like anything. It's like if you want to dive into a culture, you're going to find so much more within there. And if you want to look at for what's human in there, you can find that too. And music is just easier. It's an easier example. It's an example that everybody knows. It's universal.
Yeah.
It's a universal language. We all know
Universal.
what music is. You hear a song, we all know what like the tonality of that song is, no matter what language you speak.
Yeah. Sounds can make you laugh and you don't know why.
Yeah.
There's certain even series of notes.
They can also make you cry.
Yeah.
I've found that many times. I'll hear a certain just combination of notes and there's something so melancholy about it. It's actually just so sad. It's sad in a way that I can't even...
No one knows why.
Yeah, I don't even fully comprehend what's sad about it. It's just, I hear that combination of notes, that melody, and I'm like, oh my God, it just brings back this certain type of thought pattern, I suppose, even. It's like a trigger in a way, and music can do that. It can definitely trigger things. You hear a certain tone, and you're like, whoa, like that's...
Oh.
I mean, there's a lot of, if you're familiar with Jacob Collier.
Yeah.
Yeah, super genius, dude. And his whole thing is just about, I mean, yeah, he's really smart, but a lot of what he's saying is just be more intuitive and understand that, like, there's no mistakes. You're everything works together in a different way. Music is the way that tones work together, inspires things in different ways. And once you find different combinations, you learn to, like, it's all just, he makes sense of it in this kind of way where it is more,
Like a
not
language.
cerebral, but like it's about the mentality of it. Like he knows, I think one thing that he's done on stage before is like he'll have someone describe a mood. Or no, I know he's done things where he'll do the same song in a bunch of different moods. And he'll pick like 20 different moods. And like, just imagine that. Like you have a piano in front of you. I tell you to play... Again, we'll go back Bohemian Rhapsody. Say play the beginning classical part of Bohemian Rhapsody, but play it in these 20 different moods. And first is the normal one, then we'll do depressed, then we'll do angry, then we'll do reserved, then we'll do upset, and then we'll do ecstatic. And and you know, because you'd think like there's only a couple minor differences between a lot of those moods.
Right.
Like most people just stop at the three main ones, like happy, neutral, calm, maybe angry, happy, angry, calm, like those three, maybe it's those three. But like you can go far into that, and someone like him who's that in touch with music and the way that you can use an instrument to emote, he can show those emotions through that. And it just kind of illustrates like that once you understand sound theory enough and the way that sounds work enough, you really can just pull those things out.
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, good. When I was getting really into Jacob Collier, that's when I got very close to getting into music theory. Because I mean, really, that's the basis of all of it. If you really want to be a musician's musician, you got to start with music theory, I feel like.
Well, not start. I wouldn't say start.
Not start, but at a certain point, like, it's just very, very difficult to get over a certain... Like you could be amazing at improvisation, like, better than everybody. But I think music theory would still improve what you do.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Yeah, it could. I think so. I think with music being like a language, it's definitely good to learn it like a language. Learn it like you've learned how to talk.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I think a lot of people don't think of music as a language. They think of it as just this like mystical thing where, like, no, it is sort of kind of something you can break down.
Or if you just approach it purely from a theory, standpoint, it just becomes like notes.
Yeah.
It kind of loses what it actually is. It becomes smaller than what it actually is. Even smaller when you just constrict it to, notes on a page or, this is the C major scale or whatever,
You're right.
But that's where I feel like people get caught because then they don't, it's in the name, theory, music theory. So it's a theory. It's not rules. It's just like, this is what we call this sound. That's basically all it needs to be. Nothing more than that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It is just an idea. It's a good idea, but it's just an idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's kind of why a lot of people get into stuff like microtonality too. And this whole idea of like breaking these rules and going beyond these rules.
Yeah, or even breaking the rules, within the rules, I guess. I mean, 7 notes exist in a key. Technically, like you have your 7 notes of the major scale or minor scale or whatever. Those are the notes that work in the key, but Jacob Collier will tell you can play any note. There's no rules that you have to, just because you're in this key that you can only use these notes, that type of thing. Like,
I've heard him describe it as kind of what I was saying before, like where there's no mistakes.
There's no mistakes.
Yeah, it's just all about the way that you justify the choice.
Yeah, the context.
The context, yeah, which is just it's a really interesting way to look at it. And then there's been times when he said this on stage and then demonstrated it immediately afterwards. Like he'll show you like this would normally be a bad choice, but I'm going to show you how I'm going to make it a good choice.
Yeah. Victor Wooten, who wrote that music lesson book that I'm stealing a lot of ideas from right now, but he'll do something like that. He'll just play every note at one after another, and he's like, I'm going to play all the notes in a row, and I'm going to make it sound good. And he does. He puts on a backing track in one key, in the key of E, but then he plays every note up the G string or something, like notes that are out of key, and he makes them groove, and he does it to show a point that you should never sacrifice the groove to find a note. That makes sense. You can always make something sound like you did it on purpose, or, but the groove and the rhythm is most important.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of untrained people have that down a lot more than the people who, if you just lift that up and push it in, there you go. Sorry about that. But a lot of the untrained people who just learned themselves, they learned by being hands-on or just, intuitively, just by trusting themselves with the instrument. Those people kind of understand how to jam and to groove and freestyle a lot better than people who are book smart when it comes to music.
Yeah.
And in that sense, I think it benefits a lot more to actually learn the instrument before you learn something like music theory.
Yep,
Just get in
for
touch
sure.
with whatever that is first.
Yeah, because you didn't learn when you were born. Your parents weren't just like, okay, here's the alphabet, and this is how you draw an A, and this is how you know, this is proper grammar or whatever. You just made sounds. And you jammed.
You're right. That's interesting.
Yeah.
You weren't applying thoughts to it. You're just
You're jamming
You're jamming
with professionals all the time. You're jamming with people who could speak English really well.
Yeah. Maybe people who are childlike are just actually really good at jamming.
Yeah.
Like they're still jamming, and other people lose the music. They stop jamming somewhere along the way. That might be a fun way to look at that, actually, because it's keeping the music inside of you. Sometimes I'm just walking around. I got a fake song inside of my head. I'm like, I remember one time I had a guy like see me do that, and he just laughed. And I didn't realize I was doing something funny. But so I know I definitely got some music in me. Just moving my head around like there's some type of song going on sometimes.
Do you consider yourself a comedian? Would you
Dude,
say so?
that's so funny you say that, because I have not mentioned it once on the podcast this time, but I say it a million times on every podcast. I usually bring it up. I even say that this is a comedy podcast because I think it's the perfect cover. Like it doesn't matter what I say. Hey, it's a comedy podcast. We're just riffing.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. What I said about Bill Gates was a joke. Okay. But so that's kind of how it's kind of the beautiful, perfect defense.
Yeah.
So that's not why I'm doing it, but it's a great reason. Comedian, I've considered it to the point where during these podcasts or just conversations with people, I'll be like, hold on, that's going on the list. And I'm trying to iron out my first ever set for when I go on stage, because I know I got the personality to be a comedian.
Do, for sure.
Yeah, I feel like what it is that I'm confident enough in my decisions as I speak that it could really work. Because I have a cadence, and it's probably a funny way of speaking that just I do it on accident. Somebody I worked with described it as I'm like a Muppet, and I thought that was so on point. But I've never heard someone describe me as a Muppet before. But yeah, I'm animated almost like a Muppet in the way that I speak. So I can definitely see how that would work for sure. Yeah, because I'm just going on stage and I'm talking exactly like this, except I have an established thing I'm doing, right? So it's me and my mom were driving the other day, and when I was growing up, I don't know if there's any other way to say this. She always thought I was gay. I mean, my whole family thought I was gay. I was just one of those kids. See, it sounds like I'm setting up a bit right there. Yeah. So I just have to follow that. And by the way, all that was probably true. I think they thought I was gay.
Oh, dang it.
I think my mom still might think that somewhere inside her. She's like, yeah, he'll come out one of these days. I'm like, no, Mom, God, it's been 25 years. So, you know what? And by the way, that's going on the list.
Well, I think you would just break into something else completely different and just not resolve that at all. Just set it up like that. And
just say that and then go somewhere else.
And then maybe drop a little thing later or something.
And that'd be a great way to end the set. Just like a final callback to that thing I didn't finish. And that's why they thought I was gay. However I get there. Yeah. That's the mystery.
There you go.
That might work. Yeah, because I mean, the problem is, for one, I know I have my own way of doing it, and I could make that work in that format. I just don't know how it would translate. How would this work on a stage? Because I don't think I would switch it up too much. But from what I've heard with every comedian I've ever heard speak, a lot of it's crowd work, and not even just in the sense of riffing off of the crowd because somebody said something, or you're playing off of, hey, where do you work, blah, blah, blah. But it's
timing.
And did that bit work the way I thought it was going to work? Oh, no, and I got to refine it and all this.
It's very interesting.
It's very interesting. Yeah. And I've heard of people who have followed comedians for a little bit and seen them refine their bits and describe that. And I've heard comedians describe that, but comedians are usually candid about it. So it's more interesting to hear from the spectator because, you hear them say it one day this way, and then the next time they have it a little bit more optimized and refined, and it gives you an insight into like because you saw the first time through, you saw like, oh, so they thought that part didn't hit that well, so they took it out. And to me, it's similar. Like how I like to put it is it's very different than going on stage as a musician and just performing music. Because even if they're not into the music, they'll still clap and they'll still be kind about it. If you do a comedy set and you bomb, you know you bombed.
Yeah.
Nobody laughed.
While you're bombing, you know that you're bombing.
It's so different.
And you don't have a bunch of noise or sound of the band to like distract from the silence.
You're right. Yeah, that's a big part of it too. So you just feel the heartbreak because it's like there's it's just silence.
Yeah. And
so I don't know if I'm ready for that emotionally.
Apparently, I mean, every comedian has to go through that, right? That's like the ringer you got to go through.
All of them, and you bomb for years. You bomb for years, no matter who you are. And I'd like to think, nah, I'm cool. I'm not gonna bomb.
Because
bomb.
I'm cool.
Because
I
I'm
will
cool.
not bomb.
And I'm
the only reason.
There are many people who will tell me, yeah, great that you have that confidence, and they're right, but not in that profession. Not there.
You can make it work.
I could, but it would take the dedication. And also, like I've been saying, Chicago, I don't know if Flint's even, like, there's a couple comedians around here. Shout out Cheese Sticks. He's just one that comes to mind. But there's a few people who are doing some interesting things in terms of comedy in the Flint, Genesee-county type of area. But it's just like I don't think there's a big comedy community around here. So maybe if I go to Chicago, there will definitely be more opportunity for me to actually dive into that.
For sure, yeah. Because you could probably hit up open mic nights all the time just to get the reps in.
I could.
Just
they're all over.
Do 5 minutes. Just go on a Wednesday night, Friday night. I don't know when they do open mic nights, but
they do. Well, dude, that's what I was about to say. Is not only are they all over, they're like one night a week, and there's multiple in like I think when I was in Old Town, that was a big comedy neighborhood, and there's plenty of different. Because many times while I've been there, I was like, oh damn, like I could go to an open mic comedy. A lot of them are even free; you just have to buy drinks. So I'm like, I should just do this. Like, why would I not? But I just find something else, and then I don't end up doing it. And I've been meaning to because I want to observe. What the nature of that even is, especially in that atmosphere, more of a city thing rather than this, because that's more of what you should be familiar with. And it's all over the place. And Old Town, when I was there, I actually filmed a little bit of promo for my song Practically, just because that's why I was exploring. I mean, I like to explore in general, but I was looking for good spots to film, and I found myself in Second City, where a lot of comedians came up. Like, they have them on the wall, but I'm talking Tina Fey, Chris Farley, a lot of SNL people, but lots. And they all just were performing there at open mics or were performing there at Improv and just different things on their come up. So it's definitely an interesting place to be for comedy, for sure. And I think it's just good to have a good touch on a diverse group of people too, because somewhere like that, I mean, every city's different. That's the other thing that comedy would intimidate me about comedy is you're touring comedians. Your joke doesn't work the same way in every place. If I say a joke about gun control, if I have this crazy bit about gun control and I say it anywhere, it's not going to work the same way. It's in New York as opposed to Texas. We all know this. Right. So just stuff like that. I mean, it'd be an interesting thing. But again, maybe it's just like any other craft. It all works into everything else. Like that thing I was describing with a microscope. You zoom out, maybe that actually would help me with my music and just the way you work off of a crowd with music performance.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that too.
Yeah. So, but it's a weird thing. To me, the concept of it is just so strange. And I'd probably I'm a philosophical dude. Too much. It drives me nuts. I'm philosophical about being philosophical.
Yeah, that's good. Jemmi has a philosophy degree, so.
I'm okay. All right. I'm going to be asking him like, hey, man, tell me more. Why am I so philosophical?
Can you answer it?
That is a great philosophy question because it's philosophical by nature.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just, what was I just saying about music?
Learning how to
Oh yeah,
riff off the
comedy.
crowd.
So yeah, I feel like just with the philosophy of that, the philosophy of comedy, being on a stage and making people laugh is a really, really weird thing to be doing. It's to me, it's even more foreign than making music and people dancing. Like, because there's beauty in that. There's a beauty in comedy too. Just it's so odd to me. I don't know why. So yeah, I'd probably get lost in that in a way, especially if I wasn't funny. Like Theo Von has a set where he was on mushrooms, and I don't know how what dose he was on or where he was at in his head. But if you watch the set and you're someone who's been on mushrooms before, you can tell he's definitely not making it up. And it's online. You just look up Theo Von's magic set, I believe.
Yeah.
It's very interesting because it was me. It's like a 30-minute set. If it was me, there are so many points in there where I would just clock out. Like, dude, like, no. Even when I'm high, I don't know if I could. So, yeah, comedy's something I definitely do sober. Yeah. It's a tough thing, man. It's just a whole different atmosphere. I respect everyone who does comedy for a living.
Yeah,
I really do. It's
me too. Yeah.
It's beautiful. I respect everybody who does music for a living too, but comedy's tough because you just got to be really good at making people make sounds on accident. Yeah. So, but yeah.
With your own sound.
Mixed with you have to make your sounds make them make sounds involuntarily.
Yeah.
Crazy. It's like voodoo magic.
It is.
So yeah,
all vibrations.
It is.
It's like telekinesis, but with words.
Yeah, telekinesis with words. Yeah, not even sounds, because music is with sounds. But like with comedy, it's just with words. That's why it's thank you. I'm glad we went this way, because now I have justified in my brain why it's so weird. Because that is exactly it. It's like a weird form of telekinesis to me. It's like you're trying to, and when you're killing, as a comedian would say, when you're doing that well, you have like electrified the room. Like it's a whole different feeling in that room. It's not just like, oh, everybody's laughing. It's like you've put something in the air. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's why a lot of people get really into comedy, because of that spiritual element of that. Yeah, of like of being able to ride a wave, I suppose. Yeah. It's got to be addictive. Like I don't know how you would improv like that. Just just because me, I'd get lost in the excitement of that moment. Like, oh my God, they really like this bit. Oh shit, I better get it right. And then I just start stuttering.
No, don't do that.
Yeah,
you won't.
But like that's it. It's like when you're impressing a girl and the date's going really well. You ever have a thought of like, oh, this date's going really well, I better not do something stupid right now to make her just completely change her mind.
Oh yeah.
Because I have those thoughts.
Intrusive thoughts.
And they eat me alive. I had that thought, and all of a sudden I'm like, it makes me do something stupid. I have to learn to just not have the thought in the first place.
Oh yeah,
that's what the master would do.
Just like playing music, even if you're not improvising, if you're playing something you have memorized and you think about that in your head at all, if that thought comes up, you will mess up.
Yeah,
better not mess up. Oh, just messed up. Then you just no.
And like there are no mistakes, but it takes the improvisation to get back on track. So if you're in a jam session or something, like it's really good for flexing that muscle in your brain, because then you learn to like refocus. And for me, one thing I heard that's really interesting, I wish I could remember who had shared this information, but it was about a study about meditation, and I think it was with they did it with monks. I want to say it was a podcast with a gentleman that his name starts with a J. A whole bunch of spiritual podcasts. His name's just not coming to me right at the moment. But what it was that when they were meditating, they would be, as they're meditating, I don't know how they tracked this, but it's like the way that your brain focuses and unfocuses. So when the people who didn't meditate, and they weren't these monks, their brains were not very good at refocusing, or and maybe they did it on 3 levels, but I believe it was just people who didn't meditate and then the monks. So they weren't very good at refocusing. They weren't very good at like staying on a certain, even if they were even if they were normal, like a normal amount, neutral amount. They weren't that either. Whereas the monks were super good at refocusing. And what they would find is like while the monks were meditating, as they're zeroing in and just, staying in that zone, it's not that they're actually not breaking focus. It's that they're just constantly staying back on focus.
Yes. Yeah.
So a lot of it is just learning to refocus quickly. So it's a meditative experience in a way to me when you learn how to properly freestyle and jam like that. It's like, you made a mistake, but like focus right back in.
Oh, yeah.
And just be in that moment there. Yeah.
I've definitely noticed like when I have been really good about meditating every day or making a habit of it in the day-to-day life, it's way easier to like just think about one thing or like focus in on one task or you're just clear-headed in general. It's like you're clearing out the clutter, I guess, in a sense. But yeah, you're training that muscle to like bring it back to center, back to center, back to center over and over again, which like riding the train of music. Like, I don't know, one of the biggest skills in music is learning how to get back on the train once you've fallen off, right? If the train is the music or the wave.
And if we continue to connect music to life, the person I was thinking of was Aubrey Marcus, by the way.
Aubrey Marcus.
Shout out Aubrey Marcus.
I listened to his book, Perfect 24-Hour Day or something like that. Really good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I haven't read any of his books or listened to any of his books, but I'm a big fan of his podcast. I ought to check his books out, though, because...
I don't know if he has 1 or 2 or how many, but yeah.
Yeah, he's an incredibly knowledgeable guy, especially when it comes to just the whole spiritual realm, just that entire world of things. And the people that he chooses to bring on his podcast and highlight, he's a role model for me in a way.
That's cool.
Very cool dude. But if we're going back to music and connecting it to life, that whole idea of like getting back on track, like that is one of the things that is it's such an essential skill in life, is learning to do that, because anything can happen ever. It's like what I was saying earlier about how life is like a jam session where somebody throws something at you. Anybody, somebody in your family could die right now. How are you going to get back on track the next day, over a week? Are you going to fall apart, or are you going to get right back on track? Because that's something that could happen to any of us right now. Most of us got at least one family member. And it's just stuff like, that's an extreme example, but there's a million examples you could come up with. It could be something as simple as like all of a sudden you lose all your savings. What are you doing right now? How do you recover from that? And that's a skill for sure. I mean, that's one reason I want to get myself a little more discomfortable, a little more out of my comfort zone, go out to Chicago and do something different that I've never done, because
that's cool.
I know that's going to pull that out.
I need that.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that's why adversity inspires creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah. It always does. It seems as if everywhere you look, those creative people, there's adversity in there. There's some type of conflict in there that's pulling that art out of them every single time. I think that's why I'm so glad that I get this opportunity to talk to musicians. I mean, you're in the music industry. I'm sure you talk to a lot of these guys. They all got a story, man. They all have a different perspective that I feel like is just, it's more abstract than what you'd call the everyman. The person who's not working on art and being creative and making music. And there's a reason for it. Like, these people have this duality. They have this conflict. But again, like the better you are at being meditative and going back to center, the better you are at channeling that conflict. I think the better the musician you are. I think the better person you are.
You're right. You need to do some more of that.
Yeah, man. I'm glad we had this conversation, because I came to some good conclusions in here. Like,
same.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I think is beautiful about conversation itself is that it allows us to figure things out about ourselves, and figure things out in a way that we wouldn't figure it out by ourselves. Because, like, there's a million, like, I could have sat here and did this podcast by myself and not invited you over and did it with you, but I would have never had this conversation.
Right.
And I would have never reached those conclusions that I just reached. And I feel like I gained something from it. And that's kind of just why I've been so into podcasts, I feel like, and I always encourage people to check them out, just because I think that people need to definitely just get more into that mode of things, of just like talking to one another and listening to one another speak and engaging in the different thoughts that we have, because there's so much there's so much magic in there. There's so much that happens in between there, you know, that I don't think you can get that from any other place. You know, it's a beautiful thing that we're able to just hear people's thoughts now. Being in the past, it's like you'd hear about somebody and you could never just listen to them talk.
Right.
Nowadays, I mean, if they're a well-known enough person and they've put themselves out there enough, you can just go find a couple interviews or a couple whatever. And
even Rick Rubin.
Yeah, but specifically podcasts. I think that, you know, the whole long-form conversation thing, I think we need to do some more of that. I think that it's the only way that we're ever going to truly come together as people. And, you know, when you're talking to somebody... I agree. And when you're talking to somebody, especially in a long-form format or especially in person, you see them more as a human. You see them more as something like yourself. It becomes impossible not to at a certain point.
Yes.
And I think we just need to do some soul searching, y'all. I think we're getting better. I think we really are. I agree. Because, like, it's 2023. I think we hit a bit of a rough patch. Yeah. But you know what? I'm saying all this now because it's 2023, and every 4 years we got a little something that rolls around that makes people a little angry. So I'm hoping that we can have a little togetherness beforehand, right? Like, come on, guys.
The election coming up. That's just built into the system.
It is. It is. And the only thing that's going to change that is us leading with love and us believing in one another and listening to one another and hearing one another out. Because I'm telling you, dude, every person's got some type of story. Every person's got some type of reason they came to that conclusion they came to. And even if it's wrong, there's a reason to hear them out. You might learn something from it, and you might even guide them in a whole different direction. As I'm getting at here, you know, conversations, we find ourselves through them.
Is there any exceptions?
I don't think so.
No, not one.
I don't think there's one.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's a good way to think.
That is a good way to think. And I think that's a beautiful way to wrap up a podcast, man.
Really? Okay.
Is there anything you want to leave them with, though? I mean, is there any place they can check you out? Obviously, all those plugs you're going to want to hit, but it's also just any messages you want to send the kids home with.
Well, plugs. Yeah, well, man, you know, I got music out. I'm on social. Caleb Nathaniel Nettles. Pretty much find me at anywhere. You know, I don't know. Be excellent to each other, as Bill and Ted said. Right. That's a good one.
Be excellent to each other.
Yeah.
I like it. That's nice and simple. You're not diving into word salad like I always do. You keep it short and sweet.
that one weird band with the odd time signatures. That's Tool. Right? We wrapped it up with that. Then now this is just a short little wrap up too. We're just figuring out little short wrap ups, just little summarizations. Right? Short little things.
Yeah, we're recapping.
60-second songs.
60-second songs. Recaps of music, literally.
Yeah. Recaps.
We're learning to just cut everything down to, listen, guys, this is how you approach singularity. You just cut it all down to the most simple idea. Yeah. We're approaching singularity on this podcast. That's what we did today. We approached singularity.
How do we do that?
Because that's what singularity is, man. It's when it's all boiled down to one simple essence.
You're right.
Yeah.
Be excellent to each other. Or something.
It doesn't hit the same when you say or something at the end.
Okay. I won't do it next time. It could still work.
It could still work.
You could still be excellent to each other.
Or something. We could be excellent to each other or something. I will admit, there are some points in life. You know what? No exceptions. Yeah. Always be excellent to each other.
Yeah.
I think so. I think even when someone's not excellent to you, you ought to lead by example. You ought to show them what excellence truly is.
Yeah, do that.
Because that's how we really change things. You don't get all up. Oh well, if he did that, if he thinks I ain't excellent, then no, you show him.
Turn the other cheek.
Turn that other cheek or something.
Yeah, well, if the or something is something else that's good also, like excellent or stellar or fantastic, like that could be the or some.
Okay, let's consider that implied.
Yeah, implied. Be excellent to each other.
Be excellent to each other or something, but that something's probably good.
Yeah, it's got to be good. Be excellent.
I think we're getting farther from the singularity.
Okay. Oh, man, we got to get back.
So be excellent to each other, period.
Period.
That's singularity. Be excellent, period. That's singularity.
There you go.
Excellent. Yeah. Just excellent? I think be excellent really is the best way to drive it home. Be excellent. Singularity is a funny thing.
Become the way or some. No. Be excellent.
I think that's hilarious, dude. Like the whole idea of like how every single like motivational phrase, if you put or something at the end, it just automatically becomes it has a different meaning now.
Yeah. Live, laugh, love or some.
Like, it really makes you think. I like it. I think that's probably something you should. I'm gonna carry that on. Next time I give people advice, I'm gonna be like, you know what, you really should do that or something.
Do it. You won't.
Right. It's almost like a mixed signal. But all right. So yes, the social medias. But I mean, you got the bands too. Where do they find the bands on social media?
Yeah, you got ZANG Rock Band. Just ZANG. Search ZANG. You'll find it. ZANGband.com, collabsurvive.com, calebnettles.com. There's all those websites with music and stuff. Spotify, Apple Music. Yeah, got new stuff coming out. So follow me, and I'll show it to you. Maybe. Yeah.
Ooh, maybe he'll show it to you. Mysterious.
Or something.
Thank you guys for being here or something. I appreciate you for watching this whole thing. 2 whole hours. You're awesome. If you like what I do, make sure you freaking do all those things that I would tell you to do if I was telling you all that stuff. You know how this story goes. Make sure you follow me on all those social medias and all that good stuff. All right, guys? I don't do this for free, okay? I need to know that you like it. So please interact with this. Let people know. If you're watching towards the end here, you definitely liked it a little bit. So let me know. Yeah. Just comment fire. Comment a fire emoji. I'll be like, yeah, they get it. I like to call my real fans the Coop Troop. You guys are in the Coop Troop because you're my chickens and my roosters. Okay? So shout out, y'all. You are a Coop Troop member if you watched this whole thing. There we go. I think that hits all the bases. I appreciate you so much for being here, man. Again, I appreciate you guys a million times for watching this thing. Go do something cooler than us. Go do something a million times more creative than this. I double dog dare you. Ruse Radio. Clocking out.
Ain't nobody gonna take it away. I swear no